ladies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. I know I have been missing, but I have just been in the real world focused on my own personal level up and also studying certain dynamics. I do want to make a quick announcement. Not too long ago, I did announce that I was going to be doing a giveaway for, I believe, a $30 gift card to any type of site that will be able to help the winner with their level up journey. And so that giveaway, like the submissions, has closed. I haven't made a lot of videos in the time between when I announced it and now that it's closed. But what I'm going to do is this weekend I'll be going through all the submissions, and stay tuned. I'll be making more announcements about the progress of that. So thank you to everyone who left comments, everybody who entered the giveaway. Thank you so much. But let's talk today about how it is okay to admit that you want to be hot. It's okay to admit that you want to experience pretty privilege. I feel as though when you are the type of woman who was born with pretty privilege, a lot of more so male-centered women, they expect you to show solidarity to them through falling off. They expect you to be trying really hard to not fit certain stereotypes of, like, maybe the cheerleader or the popular girl or the pretty girl or the influencer, whatever that type of archetype is. Even getting princess treatment, like sometimes they will expect you. I have noticed that if you want to coexist peacefully with male-centered women, you definitely have to tone yourself down as far as your beauty. Like, they expect you to fall off. They expect you, if you were already born with pretty privilege, whatever level that you're meeting them at, they expect you to bring it down a notch or to simmer down. You're not supposed to level up right in front of their eyes, because I feel like that is extremely triggering to them. Especially, you have to think, where if we're over here talking about leveling up, we're over here talking about bettering ourselves, losing the weight, being pretty, being lit, being paid, all those things. We're over here expressing our true dark feminine energy and admitting that we want all the things that we're not supposed to want. We want the status. Yes, we do want the money. Yes, we do want, maybe men to bow at our feet. As far as for me, I think I notice what is especially triggering to male-centered women is if they just see it in your actions. But I think especially if you verbalize it, because they always want to start conversations. They always want to pick your brain. When you're the girl on the pedestal, they want to know if they have your validation, if they have your approval. And so they'll want to have these, value conversations. These, they'll want to talk about the beauty industry and weight and beauty standards and fashion and dating. Because they want to know how you feel about certain things, how they measure up in your eyes. They want to know what you have going on. And I think that it triggers them when women on a pedestal are able to extract benefits from men effortlessly through not centering them. I think that that is why they're so triggered by the decentering men conversation, because for them, in order to get, a small fraction, a morsel of what we are receiving, they're having to put so much more effort externally to the men, to competing, against other women versus the women who are kind of orbiting. I think orbiting is what I want to say. They're orbiting their own self, they're orbiting their own health, their own goals, and things like that. I think that you're able to just interact from a much more secure place, and it's just a more alluring energy because of the fact that you're not reeking of desperation like so many of these women. I've been around women who they will want to use these certain types of titles or buzzwords in order to try to signal that they have some sort of status through whatever man that they're dealing with. You can see this through when unambiguous women will, like, people name drop. They want to name drop to you as the exotical that they have, been able to sleep with, date, have access to, be in the same room as, marry, somebody who has your exact phenotype. So, which I've noticed that they never really say a lot of other things like about the man, except whether or not they seem to realize it, that he looks like you. Or, so that's one situation that I've noticed with the unambiguous community, dealing with those types of women. They want to try to convince you that you are not all that in a bag of chips, while they feel like your brothers, your cousins, your daddies, your ancestors, your reflection, your own people, they feel like they feel like that is a flex. It's the same way that somebody might try to, you know, say like, oh yeah, like I've been with this uh person, this celebrity or whatever. They will do the same thing in their eyes. If you are the pedestalized person, being an MLS person, you are a celebrity to them. So when they say like, oh yeah, I dated a guy who was MLS or whatever, they're in their mind, they're basically saying like, yeah, I was with Michael Ealy, so suck it. Or whoever else their crushes are. A lot of them, they like, Michael B. Jordan, and who else? I know that they like some chocolate guys too, like Damson Idris, or I think Idris Elba too, and Morris Chestnut, and those are just the guys that I can think of like immediately in my mind that I think of as being like old school, like, or I guess Damson Idris is not old school, but crushes, like celebrity crushes in the unambiguous female community. But, you know, they really feel like a guy who, I don't know, like, I think to them, they just pedestalize us and them so much that that is, what they're trying to flex on you. But what I've noticed is like, if their intention is to try to flex on you, which the only reason they would be trying to flex on you is because they feel like you just in and of yourself, just existing, they see all of these privileges that they feel like you have. And, that's why they're so obsessed. The way that you know that you would have pretty privilege, things like that, would be if somebody's trying to humble you. I mean, nobody's going up to like Respucia and being like, nobody's doing that to Gabrielle Sidibe. I feel like I feel bad that I always use her as an example, but I just learned how to say her name, within the last 6 months from watching another exotical channel. So that's why I'm flexing that I figured out how to say that name. Because I just never really paid attention to her that much. But I always like just thought of that girl as somebody where it's like, I've seen other people bring up the concept of pity privilege, and that's kind of like an example of that, where nobody's trying to say that to the person who's shaped like a surfboard, or they're shaped like a large dresser. Nobody's over there trying to humble them, or it's insane how the way that we have our exotical tax that we receive and that we benefit off of. I definitely noticed that in the presence of women who have these inferiority complexes, it's almost like we have to pay this tax, where it's like, you're pretty and all the men want you, and so you can handle it. It's really frustrating because it's like there have been so many times in my life where I have honestly just had to shift away from women like that. And, it's always worked out for me. And it's always been something where it does feel like a mic drop moment. But every time I have to do it, it's like, oh my gosh, again. Because me personally, I think that for a lot of exoticals, part of us healing and just stepping into our power is, stop being so apologetic. Because the thing is, like, when it comes to my point at the beginning of the video, talking about it's okay to accept that you want to have, you know, eyes on you, you want to have the pedestal, you want to be desirable, you want to be all of these things. I think that even from little girls, before you're even aware of these things, before you're even aware of privilege stacking and things like that, social climbing, you will just have these privileges, and there are already people around you who are looking like, oh yeah, you're gonna have it like this and I'm gonna have it like that, and I don't like you and I put you on a pedestal. And it's frustrating, I think, in part because of the fact that, you know, you can be just an everyday person, and people will kind of have the same type of resentment towards you that they would have towards somebody like, Trump or a Bezos or a Zuck, somebody like that who they feel like is hoarding wealth and has too much power and influence and things like that. As a little girl, I feel like you can already be marked as a person in certain communities where they're already seeing you as the person who would be up on the pedestal, the person who they're comfortable having, expressions of crabs in a bucket mentality towards. They're okay with saying, you know, you're in the same community as me, you're in the same neighborhood as me, we have all of these other things in common, but I don't know, you're a little too bad. You're a little bit too, it could be whatever. You have too much thin privilege. You have too much pretty body privilege. You have too much pretty hair privilege, too much pretty privilege in general. Maybe it's personality privilege. And I believe that I've talked about this in a video before, but for a lot of women who are experiencing the cognitive dissonance of being male centered, yet they almost seem like it's almost like a sort of martyrism or something, where, there's different flavors, just the same way that decentering men is a spectrum. Centering men is a spectrum as well, where you have different types of women who are male centered, where, like, a lot of them, it is part of the sisterhood where they're with, some man, some random bum of a man, some random dusty of a man who they really feel like they have to babysit all the time, and you become their enemy. The hot girl is the enemy. The girl who's really feminine is the enemy. Like, you could literally be living your life literally so unpressed about men, and that lack of desperation, the demeanor, the type of energy that you carry, your aura, it really can magnetize the men to you in a way that's unintentional. Because a lot of the women who have decentered men, it's not even that we're always decentered from men. Like, it's not like, a lot of us, we're on a journey to where we're deciding. What I find amongst women who are male centered versus women who have decentered men is that, male centered women, the brand of sisterhood that they can offer you is, in my opinion, just very cheap, very fickle, very, it's nothing that I want a part of. Like, when I've been in different situations and I've either felt more of a sense of sisterhood with women like that versus felt a little bit not as embraced or seen as their reflection, by those male centered women. It's often been whenever I was just the most glowing, you know, achieving my goals just really flawlessly and effortlessly. I am that type of person who even if it's just to my journal, I'm going to admit that I want whatever it is. Like, not in every single way. I'm not a perfect person, I'm not a self actualized human, but I am definitely stepping into, and have been for a while now, um, this space of not feeling a lot of shame and guilt as a woman for my desires outside of what the traditional or the expected, the male centered, maybe, patriarchal type of way is. I have spoken before about, I think it's Manifesto who's said this phrase, which I have not seen. I know she's rebranded, so I don't know if this is something that she still aligns with, but I saw this a long time ago. She put out a video where she was talking about, ask not what you can do for the patriarchy, but what the patriarchy can do for you. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with women who have decided to decenter men and say, well, I don't have to be a social justice warrior that is just angry and pissed off all the time. I can just be aware of the statistics, be aware of this life, and decide that I get to choose how I navigate in this system. And I don't have to show that I'm down and that I'm real and that I am relatable in order to gain, the support from certain people. But I feel like you do have to navigate in a smart way. If you're around women like that, you will have to tone it down. You will have to calm down. So that is going to be, for you to decide. Are you comfortable doing that? We all just have to be real. What are your goals? Do you need to maybe exist and survive over there? Or is it really time to just take the chance on yourself, and do you have a safety net? Are you going to be fine if you decide to leap and separate from the ops? I've been in different situations where, which I really have the goal before the end of 2025 to really start filling up my Patreon with a lot of just more behind the scenes and more content to really connect with my subscribers who really want to get to know me better. But I've just been in so many different situations. And so when I'll hear different exoticals sharing their experiences, or the Storytime series on EU channel, Pretty in Between, when I've seen her make content, so many other exoticals that I've seen. I really like some of the Creole exotical channels as well. And I'm trying to think as well. There are just so many that have popped up. There are so many new exotical creators, and I haven't been online as much lately just because I've been taking care of some stuff. And I kind of can be that person to laser focus on one thing at a time, and I'll get the results, but then, I might fall off of other parts of my life, like obviously like with posting and recording and stuff like that. I have been making moves, but I want to try to work on being more consistent with that, and really sharing the things that I have been able to learn and figure out. But it's just so much information I wish that I would have had sooner, because when you find out certain things that you kind of have, like, people I don't know what words I always say I don't know what I can say on YouTube and what I can't say, but when people will talk about having like your ninja wake up call, sometimes I feel like there is an exotical wake up call, or there's like a pretty girl wake up call when you're like, wow, like, I just think that, and they even say this, like, statistically, when you're looking at your phone through, like, you're looking at yourself through like your front camera all the time, your mirrors in your home and things like that, you're just so used to your face. You're so, you're just used to who you are, that you don't actually necessarily know how you kind of dawn on other people. You don't know how you're perceived. Like, you could be thinking you're just like really just chilling, and you're people can really be like, oh, I hate that bitch already. And it isn't really nothing to be, I don't want to say like giddy about, but it's like you just kind of have to cope with it however you want. You kind of have two choices. You're either going to dim your light or you're not, and you have to decide how to navigate, because in certain spaces, if the sisterhood requires that you tone it down. You can do that. You can navigate that way if that fits your social goals at the moment, or maybe it doesn't fit your goals. Maybe you need to be in a space where, maybe that, I don't know, maybe energetically that just does not work for you. Like me, I think that I'm so, so, so blessed in my life that I've been able to connect with women who are just full of so much light and so much passion, and, women who are also decentered from men. And it really does, until you experience that, if you haven't, it really is a beautiful thing. That brand of sisterhood, it just feels like abundance. It just feels like femininity and, community. And it's just the most healing type of space ever. It is so beautiful to be around other women who are not connecting through trauma bonding in order to stay trauma bonded and stay stagnant, but to, to validate each other and to say, hey, I see you, sister, and to encourage each other. Like, oh, I cannot be a part of the sisterhood of ugly. Okay, have you ever been around women or even seen it in media and YouTube videos and, and TV shows where it's almost like, I want to say it's kind of like middle school energy is what I like, the initial thing that I think of, like where, you're young and you're receiving this messaging that, like, being hot and pretty is kind of like evil. It kind of makes you bad. Like a lot of the movies in the 90s and stuff like that, they kind of demonize certain archetypes of like the pretty girl, the skinny girl, the popular girl, the rich girl, or whatever, or even try to make it into like somebody who's not taken seriously, somebody who shouldn't be respected, somebody who only maybe is kind of like male obsessed. And I feel like we've seen that a lot in the media, and I think that that can shape some women's mentalities to where it almost feels like in order to prove themselves as being like a good woman, they have to basically be like, ew, I'm so gross, ew, I'm disgusting, ew, I'm fat, ew, I'm ugly. And like, it definitely like could be true at the time. Like, some people are fat, some people, like, I don't know, I don't want to say anybody like ugly. Y'all know how I feel about the word ugly. Sometimes me and that girl, we're tight, because sometimes it's just, I have different sides to myself. I am not over here trying to be an angel, but I just feel, for me, it's frustrating because, like, if you're actively leveling up and you're around women who more so are a part of that sisterhood where it's like, yeah, they identify perpetually with being leveled down, being undesirable, and things like that. And let's say you already kind of came into the space, or kind of came into the area, like I said, being born with pretty privilege, or having your feminine privilege or personality privilege, whatever it is that you already came with. And let's say you're somebody who's like, you don't really feel like there's a ceiling. Like, you are constantly excited and curious about beauty and about curating your appearance and building certain skills. Like, I feel like when you are already, like, if you're born with pretty privilege, you have this canvas. And I love filling up my time with practicing hairstyles, practicing styling myself different ways, practicing um, makeup in different ways, like seeing people online on social media, other women in real life, people who either have the same skin tone and undertones and features as me, or maybe they have different ones, and just experimenting and seeing like, oh, we look similar, how would that look on me? Or, oh wow, like, I have friends, like, they look very different from me, and we will literally, like, we'll swap makeup and all that. Like, here, try this. And I like those videos that talk about color theory and things like that. And I have friends of different multicultural backgrounds or whatnot, black and black and non-black. So it is really fun because you might buy something and you're like, oh, this doesn't really fit me. Like I thought this was gonna look so much cuter on me. And then you give it over to your friend or your friend gives something to you and then you try it on, and you're like, oh my God, that looks dang, you're pulling like I just love it because like I hate things having to go to waste and everything, and it feels so good to have girls being like, I just love building upon that. I cannot stand being around women where it's like basically in order for them to like me I have to be like, ew, being pretty, ew, wanting to like, I can't do that. Like we're grown as women. Like we're so grown. Like women will be so grown about the fact that they want, like they are gobbling grown men. They're gobbling hot dogs and sausages, but you can't be grown about the fact that you want social status. You can't be grown about the fact that you want to be desirable. You can't be grown about the fact that you don't want to have a big ass bag anymore. Like I cannot stand, that is so frustrating. Just something that I've noticed along my womanhood journey. Like I do feel like that is part of womanhood, is you're not a little girl anymore to where you have to be like all docile and I don't want to upset anybody. Like no, we are grown women. If you want to pursue this goal, this career, this look, this aesthetic, I am grown. Like who's going to tell me that I can't? A lot of women who are part of that, that more leveled down brand of sisterhood, they will want to tell you in different ways socially that you can't. Like I've just been through situations, and just even in real life currently, it's just like, dang, like you really get to see the difference between women that you meet and that you connect with and that you get to build upon and have that more leveled up sisterhood with, and the women where it's weird because it's like I noticed that when you keep leveling up, let's say you just don't fall off, because I feel like as a woman, like part of me loving being a woman is playing with the canvas that is my skin and my body and my hair and my nails and everything like that, and my clothes and my scents, like my jewelry. That's fun to me. And like giving my inner child things that I can now buy with my adult money, or certain experiences, or I don't know, just like I just feel like when we're grown, I feel like when you're a child, like everything is kind of out of reach because you don't necessarily have the power in your life. But then when you're grown, and we are so blessed to live in 2025, all of this AI and technology and social media, it's like I just feel like that's part of adult development, is just saying like, hey, if I can identify that I want this thing, the most productive thing would be to go after it. That would be the best thing, because like I've even noticed, like as I've improved, as I've lost weight, certain women, like how like the skinnier girls like can't talk about certain things in front of the big backs. I've noticed that it almost kind of, I don't know if I want to say it goes both ways, because like they'll still want to talk about it in front of you, but they less so, I don't know. Like it's almost like they just want you to feel bad about, cuz I don't know. I kind of wish they wouldn't talk about it in front of me, because it's like, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to say like, "Oh, yeah, I'm so fat too?" Cuz I'm not. I identified that I didn't want to be, and I worked on that, and like during that time that I was trying to work on that, what were you doing? Because you also identified that you didn't want to be a big bag. But I just feel like in real time that can be really triggering to other people around you if, you know, I just feel like as women we have this culture sometimes where we're expected under patriarchy to um always feel like what we want is unattainable, and to live these lives where instead of attaining the things that we want, instead of attaining, oh, you want to buy this for yourself, oh, you want to dress like a pretty princess, oh, you want to dress coquette, oh, you want to dress like a goth, oh, you want to learn this instrument, learn this language, you want to travel over there, or you want to be a nomad, oh, you want to be in the circus. Like it's thought of like, oh, I really do feel like people really do equate women to children in so many ways, to where it's like, oh, you want that, ha ha ha, you'll grow out of that, you'll eventually, like how women who don't have children get treated, childless women. I have noticed that with men who will say they don't want children, it's like, oh yeah, that's fine, like, okay, you're a man. But then when it's a woman, it's almost like, oh, once you become an adult, once you become wiser, once you become smarter and more mature, you will decide that you have found your role is to have some children. Although we have a surplus of children all over the place that are bald, these children don't even have edges. I've been watching the videos about the princess cover ups. The babies don't have edges, the babies have traction alopecia. The babies, they don't have daddies. they they have no daddies, no edges, and you want women to just keep having babies out. Like, it is so wild to me. It is insane. Like, between women who are childless, or women who want to be like one and done, or women who want to be surrogates and decide that, oh, I don't want to keep a child. Women who just want to be a teacher, or they literally, like, I think it's also fine to be like, oh, I have no interest in children and small people. Like, I also think that's totally fine, because, like, when men are like that, it's like, oh, okay. I just feel like there's so many other ways that you can contribute to society. And I feel like, even if you're not just like repopulating, or doing free labor for people as a woman, as you're expected to do, you could also be contributing by not being one of the miserable hoes that are out there hating on the next girl just because she's shining and she's glowing. Like, really pay attention. Like, that's why I am so big on journaling. Like, I can literally say, let me count the years. I I can say that I've been consistently journaling for the last 6 years of my life. Oh, I gotta talk about that more, like, over on a Patreon. Yeah, I gotta talk about that, because let me tell you, that is one of the most underrated habits, I would say. Oh my God. Like, for your mindset, for your weight, for your self image, for gratitude, for your just literally everything. And then I also feel like it helps you kind of track relationships in your life. Like, I'm the type of person where I like to journal gratitude, and I like to also, write down a bit about the people in my life, the family, the friends, and whatever other situations I have going on, people I associate with. And I also will track ways that people react to me. I track that because I feel like it's just data to collect on myself and around different people that I meet in this big, big, big world. And it helps me, I can refer back to that stuff. If I feel like I was dull and lifeless and not really progressing much, and I was stagnant, and I felt like I was like really close to somebody, but then I don't know, just kind of like took off, because like I said, I will laser focus, like, really close, and it's all of a sudden somebody's being weird. Like, you can definitely do that. Like, that could be something for you to think about after you watch this video. Like, have you ever noticed trends in who is happy when you're looking good, you're feeling snatched, you're doing your thing, you're happy, you're just achieving all of your goals and your desires. And then there are people who, like, when you're feeling like that, it's almost like they're kind of like, they smell something sour. Like, your success literally, like, stinks to them. They're like, mm. Like, they get a stink face, they get a stink attitude over you losing weight, over you playing with your look, over you being just being hot and amazing. Like, and I've gotten this comment before, where some people, I guess, they hear my videos and they're like, oh, it sounds like, I don't know the word specifically, but I want to say like self-aggrandizing or whatever, or somebody almost sound like that's what this is. But if that was the case, then I would be telling my audience and my subscribers that they are not talented and full of life and this, that, and the third. But instead, I'm not saying that to my audience. What I say to my audience is, I assume that if you are gravitating towards my content, it's because you feel like you hear something that makes you feel seen, where it's like, yeah, I am really that girl. And some people really have an issue with that, and I think that those people who, you could even see that with like child stars and things like that. Look at like the types of energy that they attract. Like when people are, light, bright souls and talented and just glowing and all that stuff, so many people, it's almost like they're living in grayscale and you're living in technicolor, and when they see you, you just kind of shine a light on how dull, how monotone, how repetitive, how just, I don't know, so many people, it really is, um, I would say often all in the mind, because so many people, they're just living these lives where you could talk to them like 15 years ago. You could have spoke with them 15 years ago and they said they wanted to do this, that, and the third. They said they'd like to have money. They say they would like to look like this girl on the magazine cover and whatever. And 15 years later, you could see them again and they didn't do any of it. And you have to think 15 years of not going after what you want, not admitting to yourself how you might want to be perceived or what benefits you might want to experience in society. 15 years of not actually getting what you set out to get because you decided that it would make you what? You would be a bad girl if you did it. You'd be a bad, like, come on, they have like how many seasons of a show called Bad Girls Club? Like, I've never watched that show. It's okay to be a it's okay to be a bad girl, because if you're not, I think that so many people, they will say, like, the pretty girls, like, oh, I thought that you were mean when I first met you. Why did you think that girl was mean? You thought she was mean because a lot of times you feel like in order to be nice, you have to just be a people pleaser and just say, like, you just have to kind of go with the flow and say, like, oh, what, money? People with money is bad. Money is the root of all evil. I don't want money. Anytime I get money, I just give that money away. I can't keep money in my pocket. I hate money. People with money are bad. Oh, being desirable, desirability is bad. Being desirable, look at all the problems that the girls who are desirable have. Oh, let's point out these trends of every time a girl who's experiencing pretty privilege, when something doesn't work out for her, let's try to pile on and shame her more and try to just kick her while she's down. A lot of people, that is how they are feeling when they are not actually going after the things that they want, and it's just this resentment that is building up, and it does turn into envy. And envy is a dangerous emotion. And I think a lot of times some of our content can go over the heads of people who have inferiority complexes, who are more so coming over here to hate watch and whatnot. Because, if every girl who felt like she was that girl was just like exaggerating or feeling herself or just a little bit too conceited, making her skin tone her whole personality, making her hair tone her whole person, or her hair texture her whole personality. If that's really what it was, guess what? Guess what? Aaliyah, like, man, I hate to go there, but Aaliyah would still be here. Selena would still be here. And, it's, you wouldn't see all these stories of women being with their so-called gal pals. We're all feminists, so we just love each other so much. Girl power, girl power. Yeah, that women wouldn't be hanging out with their girls, getting set up, getting sabotaged, getting jumped, getting unalived. That wouldn't be something that is happening in such alarming rates. And I think that so many times people don't want to talk about the fact that that's the real thing, because if you were to talk about, unfortunately, that mathematically, statistically, most people are average. Most people are average or below average. And because there is so much shame, specifically with women, around wanting more for your life, around deciding that you want these things that we're taught in different ways that we're not supposed to want, or if you want that, if you decide to pursue that, let's point out the most worst thing that could ever happen to you to make you afraid. Like, my goal is definitely not to say, hey, if you're going to be lit and be that girl, you're going to have haters, and so don't be lit and don't be that girl. No, I'm saying be aware, because you have to really decide, either if you need to navigate in a certain space, you just need to be aware. But I also feel like you are too beautiful. You are too talented. You are too everything. You are just so precious, you know, that we need you here. We need your gifts. I don't want to lose the girl who could be the next Aaliyah, the next Selena's, the next whoever. Insert very gorgeous, beautiful woman who unfortunately has had her light attract disgusting, envious demons to her. I and everything is not spiritual. This is not a spiritual channel or anything like that, but I think it is important to see these things and understand these things that people don't want to talk about. This type of content shouldn't be so controversial, but part of the reason that it is because, yes, there is an agenda against the pretty girl in order to exploit her labor. Like, so many people, whether that is men who want to have access to you. Like, it's unfortunate, a lot of people, they don't even think about the fact that, a lot of pretty women, we know what it feels like to, part of the reason there is so much faceless, pretty privileged content is because a lot of us we've experienced either not being able to connect with a certain other woman that we thought, hey, maybe this could be a cool, like, hey, you seem cool. And then just because of how you look, she just projected all of these other things onto you. And it has gotten you've been in tricky situations with women because of that, or with men, them not even really wanting to fully get to know you deep to your core as a human and really value you that way, because they, of course, they're treating you nice, they're treating you amazing, but at the same time, they're kind of treating you like an object. A lot of us know what it's like to be treated like the trophy that is shown off and everything, but do people go to their trophies every day and talk to them and treat them kindly and everything like that? And, they want to keep it looking good, of course, so everybody can see it, and then they just show it off, and then they walk off with those people. And once a man has shown off his trophy, then he's, impressing other women with his trophy. He's impressing other men with his trophy. So a lot of us, we know what it feels like to only be looked at for our beauty, whether that is a positive thing or a negative thing. And a lot of us, we want to be seen for more than just our beauty. And I think this space over here is very amazing. I'm so thankful for the Exotical space. And I think that every single woman that I've been able to see and connect with in this space is so insightful, is so intelligent, is so beautiful and driven. Like, I will talk to other Exoticals and interact with them. I'm like, wow, we are so talented. We are so beautiful. We are so ambitious. There is nothing in this world that we want that we cannot have. And it is, a double-edged sword, where I just want everybody to stay safe and be careful and everything, because, a lot of us, we know what it's like to be around a woman who, you want to feel like you're not being paranoid, but you're actually on a certain level aware. You're a woman, you have your intuition. You're like, oh, wow, this hoe would unalive me like with the quickness just because of envy. I feel like the difference between jealousy and envy is, like, when you experience jealousy and you listen to it and you allow it to guide you towards what you want, you actually get inspired, and you see the things that you want, and you put your energy into productivity. You put your energy into, oh, that person has money to do that thing and I don't have the money to do that yet, so I'm going to put my money, or I'm going to put my energy, all of my creative energy and my time and my talents and everything into getting the thing. And then you get to feel like, oh wow, I was inspired by this person. I admire them. I can humanize them to say that, hey, I'm sure that just like me, they said that, hey, they wanted that and then they got it. As opposed to the people where they don't ever put the energy into it, they don't ever try. Instead, because when they're not putting the energy into what it is they want to achieve, admitting they want to be desirable or whatever, they're not over there like, oh well, I'm not going to put the energy into becoming more desirable, so I'm just going to stop wanting it. No, that's not where the energy has to go somewhere. Isn't that what they say? Like, energy can never be created or destroyed. That energy, it festers and it turns into a green I don't know, is jealousy green? Are they both green? I feel like as an emotion. But the green, I think that's the monster, the green-eyed envy monster. I'm probably wrong. It's probably jealousy. Let me know in the comments down below. But instead, all of that energy that's just built up, because when you want something, that is that desire. If you want to get into like more like an energetic type of uh conversation, that is like fire. That is like, that, when people say that, oh, they're on fire, passion is always depicted through like red and hot and stuff like that, because it is a fire. So if you're not putting that fire towards, you know, getting the things that you want, the fire's not going away. And instead, it's going to become, fire can be, used. A lot of women over here in this space, we use the fire that we have inside from our desires to say, I'm going to burn the self that I used to be down to the ground. With love, of course, but I'm going to decide that I'm going to use that fire to go harder with my cardio. I'm going to get really disciplined with, maybe my workouts or my diet. I'm going to really start, competing with the version of myself that I was 6 months ago. I'm going to, start really getting on. You might decide, okay, I'm going to get fired up and I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm going to get fired up and I'm going to lose 5 more pounds. I'm going to get fired up and I'm going to learn French. I'm going to get fired up and I'm going to take a trip to Norway. When we're over here, like, it really is just such a powerful ball of energy that we're creating when we are just building. Like, I literally feel it as I'm talking about it right now. But when those women are over there and, they have that sisterhood of mediocrity and below averageness and big backery, and male centeredness, what happens with that fire that they have is they end up wanting to throw that fire at you. That fire, because fire can be destructive towards creation, burning what is already here, standing down to the ground to create something new, as a positive force. But it can also be, fire can be arson. Fire can be, oh, I, instead of me putting this fire that I feel, they start feeling as though, you have something that they deserve, and that's why, I try not to get too political on this channel, but I will say that everybody's entitled to, that is a human right that you have, to have whatever politics you want, and to identify with whatever, whatever you want. If you're a mixed race person, I still have to make my mixed race Bill of Rights video, but you do not have to justify your existence, how you define yourself, to anybody. You can be just as multifaceted and fluid in your identity as you want. But be aware when, I almost compare it to how people may feel about nepotism and things like that. You were just you didn't work for that job. You just got, your dad just happened to be so and so and you got it. Okay, I understand that, right? And maybe we over here are not necessarily nepo babies, but what I'm trying to draw the link between is that sometimes people can feel that same way about you being born into a pretty privileged family, you being born with pretty privilege, you being born, with, you were born light skin, you were born with long pretty hair, you were born like whatever that is, you were born with certain features. There are some people who can look at you if they feel like they're just fugly and a big back, and or they feel like you were born with good genes, they feel like you hit the genetic lottery, right? people can feel that same way about you, where it's like you didn't work to get skinny. You didn't work to be pretty. You didn't work to have long hair. There's so many women who, whether it's whether it's that they have just thin, scraggly hair, whether they are bald headed, whatever, whether their parents burnt all their hair off when they were in like second grade, and that's the excuse that they're still using well into womanhood for being bald headed. They, that's shady. But, they will look at you through these eyes of just like, you know, I had to, they just have so much trauma built up around certain things. It's so triggering to them. They feel left behind, they feel rejected and abandoned by certain privileges. They feel excluded from being a part of like the pretty girl club. And they want to take that out on you, because a lot of them, they don't have access necessarily to, maybe the celebrities that they hate the most. Maybe they hate the A-list celebrities the most, but you are the one who is, closest to them, especially because when you have these privileges and you're not afraid to admit that you want XYZ status, you can be in the same town as them, but you can be having brand deals. You could have 100,000 followers. You could be getting invited to different events and, uh, type of influencer situations. You could be living that type of lifestyle right there in the same town as them. And to them, it's just absolutely disgusting and triggering, because they thrive off of excuses and limiting beliefs. I cannot do this because I have this skin color. I cannot do that because I was born in Chicago. I cannot do that because I was born in Atlanta. Whatever it is, wherever, people will have all these beliefs, and then you're just sitting there every time that you push through a ceiling that they assumed that you couldn't. Every time, some people, I think, as somebody who's lost an insane amount of weight, it has kind of given me new eyes when I'm around big backs, because it's like so many of them, and I think I've said this before, they have an irrational fear of wasting away. It's like, ma'am, you are over 300 pounds. Like, I promise you, you're not going to accidentally get down to 110 pounds. Like, I don't think that's going to accidentally happen to you. Like, they will literally be like extremely obese, morbidly obese, and be sitting there trying to talk down on people, who have like nice, decolletage areas, and, people, you can see their bones, you can see their collarbone, whatever. And it's like, they want, everybody has to have an ED, when it's like, ma'am, I think you probably are over there binging, eating in secret or something. I'm sure that you have some sort of ED as well. If Because if I have an ED, then what do you call what you have? Like, and it's such a double standard. Like, you can never just go up and say like, I think that actually you might have body dysmorphia. I think that you think that you're like at a healthy weight, and just like, I think you have 5 pounds to lose, babe. And I think you're just over there gung-ho on all of your body positivity hoopla, and you think that in order to, because so many of them, they'll have like an internalized beauty standard, like whether or not they want to admit it, 300 pounds jiggling all over the place is not their internalized beauty standard. But it's like, they will be literally so delusional. It's like, ma'am, I promise you, you have more than 50 pounds to lose. Like, I think please don't shoot the messenger, but I honestly feel like statistically, the average Black woman in America could probably lose at least 50 to 80 pounds. Just like, as a person who has lost a lot of, I've gone through different phases of being like, oh yeah, no, I think I'm fine or whatever. And then you keep losing, you're like, oh, and then you see pictures of yourself like not too long ago, you're like, wait, that's wild. And it's crazy because like, you'll be getting, I don't know, it's just so weird, because you'll be like, even like, as somebody who's lost a lot of weight, at my biggest, I wasn't even as big as like so many people that I'll see around. And it's like, it's so wild that you're over here putting your energy and your fire and your passion about beauty standards and body positivity into trying to shame me out of my health goals, instead of putting that energy into like, because trust me, I am not the type of person who's like, oh, go on all of these crash diets and fads and this, that, and the third. I think that if you want drastic results, of course you can do drastic things, but I will say at the end of the day, you know yourself. What is sustainable? What will be sustainable? For me, I ooh, I needed to make small swaps every day. And then there were phases where small swaps and everything was not working. And so I needed to tighten up on things. You know, you need to be honest with yourself. You don't need to talk about it with everybody else, especially people who just want to sabotage your goals. But I'm very thankful that I have a network of women around me who are constantly glowing and shining and achieving, and they don't make me feel like yo, it's crazy that in certain communities they will literally try to make you feel like you have an ED for wanting to go from overweight to not overweight, or from obese to not obese, from just obese to overweight. Like, people will literally, like, it's wild when I will hear people lying to each other, and I'm like, like, of course I am not a doctor, I'm not a scanner, I'm not an x-ray or anything, but there are times that you can literally see somebody who's trying to act like they're not that big or try to be all body positive, and it's like, I can look at you and I can tell that your BMI is in the obese range. I can look at you and I can tell that if you lost the amount of weight that you're trying to claim that you only need to lose, you know, because sometimes people, they just don't want to be realistic. I'll hear certain people's goals sometimes, and I'm like, you realize that if you were to achieve that goal and then stop, you would really just be going from morbidly obese to just like regular obese, right? Or you realize you would just be going from morbidly obese to overweight. You would still actually not be at a healthy weight for your size and your proportions and everything. And I am not a dietitian, I am not a nutritionist, but I think that in America especially, we just have it insanely just like, I let me tell you, I love America. You would be like, I like country music and all that. Like, I this is where I'm at. So it's like, you know, I'm not gonna be over here being mad the whole time I'm here. I'm gonna live it up while I'm here. But I feel like we just have a culture that is very much like, I mean, it's different in different parts of the United States, you know, but I just think it's so normalized here to just be lying to each other versus like in other cultures, like in, I would say, like, definitely like in the East, like, they don't lie to each other. They literally are like, hey, like they will catch each other when they're like 5 pounds overweight and be like, they'll comment on it and everything. And I know that there are so many people, even Exoticals down, you know, in my comments and stuff, and comment down below if that's part of your admixture, you're a part of that culture. You probably know that there are a lot of people who have grown up in that culture and now as adults are saying like, oh, I wish people weren't saying that to me all the time, you know, but I even still, I there's an in between over here, nobody's obese, nobody's morbidly obese, and over there, you know, it's like, oh, everyone is type of thing. You know, there's an in between, and I just love existing in the in between, where, you know, me personally, I just know what I've been through and stuff, and it's, I love being able to be a safe space, um for the next girl. Even when I was a bit bigger than I am right now, you know, I was happy that I was kind of painting myself as a safe space for women who were even smaller than me, that like, I know that you done had some big bitches in your life getting real aggressive with you for absolutely no reason but that you are pretty. And like, I, you know, it's very nice to know that, like, you know, some women, they're over there, they're, you know, I just think that some women, especially when it comes to them wanting to be male centered, but also not achieve their goals and have this envy and resentment that's building up within them, and also not admit that they want to be desirable and just snatched to be snatched. They always want to be like, oh no, it's about being healthy. No, I want to be snatched. No, because nobody's going up to a morbidly obese person and saying, you know, you shouldn't want to be all juicy and curvilicious. You should want to be healthy, and you are not healthy. Nobody's going up to those people and saying that. Like, I hate to break it to you, but that's just the truth. Like, it always just seems to be one way that things want to go, you know, and I just feel like, hey, at the end of the day, get away from the sisterhood of the traveling fuglies and the sisterhood of the traveling big bags. Like, I feel like it's definitely okay to decide that I don't want to be around that energy. I don't have time to be around that energy. And, a lot of times when people are so obsessed with trying to humble you and, perform these different humbling tactics on you, it is a lot of times they want you to let your boundaries down. They want you to let your guard down, even though you are aware. You're aware from your pretty girl PTSD, from your betrayal trauma, from your experiences. You're like, hey, I know that it could come off as mean girl or vain or this, that, and the third, right? Or you can't sit with us. But at the end of the day, you look like every other hoe that didn't like me before. You look like every other girl who was hating on me. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not that type of person who is really angry about things like profiling and stuff like that. I'm totally aware that like that could go so bad, but at the end of the day, I feel like instead of being super angry, you could be super aware, and you could just, hey, be aware that if you look like that, you're gonna get profiled like that. And it's like you only have a certain amount of options in the world. It's like a lot of things. You can either get right or get left with it. You could either choose to believe that, decide how you're going to navigate, or you're going to be a victim, or like you only have so many options. And I feel like as women, especially as these beautiful exoticals that we are, these beautiful talented women full of light and beauty and whatnot, at the end of the day, you have to understand that there's so many people looking to harvest energy from you. I've seen other exoticals talking about destiny swapping. That is what they're looking to do with you. They're looking to shame you out of your goals, your dreams, your beauty, and everything, all while they're trying to attain it too. And, it's all about us staying safe and, you know, putting each other up on game as much as we can. And, you don't have to tell a girl that, oh, I'm not being friends with you because of XYZ. You don't have to tell them. Like, they're not entitled to the truth. I'm deciding to not be friends with you because I feel like you look like XYZ. You don't have to say that. They are not entitled to that information from you. But we need your gifts. We need your talents. We need you here. You know. Ooh, I hate. I don't like seeing stories of exoticals and beautiful, gorgeous, talented women being taken out of here prematurely by that very dangerous, very sneaky spirit of envy. You can't just let yourself be a victim. You can't just allow yourself to, you know, just be shamed out of protecting yourself. At the end of it, you do have to protect yourself. So if that means disengaging, if that means moving on, if that means relocating, if that means cutting a friend group off, if that means quitting a club, quitting a job, if that means moving into a different neighborhood, if that means not talking to whoever anymore, or keeping it pushing, keeping it very cordial, that's what you gotta do. And nobody's entitled to your energy. All those people who are over there trying to guilt you about being selfish and about, not speaking to nobody and about not being relatable and approachable and stuff. The people who are mad at you that you're not doing that, because there's a difference between advising people for safety to do that. You don't want to raise too many, you don't want to be surrounded basically by sharks who feel like, you're bragging about how privileged you are because they would try to eat you alive. Like that is what I'm talking about. Like, oh, it's good for us to put each other on game and stuff. But just be aware of what's going on. Don't let anybody try to make you feel like, oh, you don't have whatever privilege going on. They're sitting there trying to humble you in order to maintain access to you so that they can have the access to you to sabotage you, to destiny swap with you. So I just wanted to return to the YouTube streets and everything and work on consistency and everything, and also on my Patreon. And I'm going to be trying to reply to some comments, trying to record some more content, edit some stuff that I already have recorded and get it up. And I really hope that all of my girlies are having a great summer. Like, if you guys are comfortable telling me in the comments below, what are you doing this summer? Like, do you have any goals that you've been achieving, any wins that you're excited to celebrate? Because I definitely will say, you know, it is very good to talk about things once it's already done, already achieved, and nobody can, you know, mess it up. Do you have any wins, things that they're no longer in the works, but they're done? Nobody, no haters can sabotage it anymore, and it's already there, already came to fruition, and it is yours now. Like, I love seeing positive stories and stuff like that. And so, with that being said, what do you think, worldies? Let me know down in the comments below. Until next time, eyes on the prize.